Okay, so welcome everybody to this talk, and I'm Francesco Bruschi. I will introduce, will tell something more about myself in a second. And today I would like to talk blockchain as common knowledge processing systems. And who am I? I am Francesco Bruschi. I'm a director of the Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Observatory of the Politecnico di Milano. What is the observatory? Politecnico di Milano, of course, is one of the main technical universities in Italy, and the observatory is an entity that was formed within the university. And its aims and missions are to analyze and keep an eye on the main digital technologies. And we do that for many different technologies. In particular, I'm director of the Blockchain Observatory. And we have different objectives in our work. Well, first of all, to perform research on the technologies that we consider, and so to keep an eye on what's happening, what are the future perspectives, what's going on, what will happen likely. And then we have a networking objective in which we try to put different companies into communication with each other and to let some possibilities of cooperation arise. Then we have an education objective, and so we try to spread knowledge about the technologies, to teach how to do things and what it is possible to do, both from a business and from a technical point of view. And then we have another very important objective and very effortful objective, which is to communicate to the society what are the possible advantages of the technology. And I think that this is one of the most interesting thing that we can try to do, and that has to do with what I am going to present to you today. And so one of our biggest efforts are to try to take the advantages and what this technology has to offer, and to propose it and to explain it to non-technical audiences. And I think this is one of the most important thing that has to be done to create a culture and to lead to the society as a wider whole. What are the possibilities of these technologies? So what I would like to do what I would like to talk to you about today is one way that we are using to convey the possibilities of the use of blockchain to non-technical audiences. So I'm not going to try to convince you that blockchains are of the opportunities that blockchains offer. I would like to propose to you a point of view which you can approach non-technical audiences and try to explain to them what is all the fuss about. Okay, so there was the upside down slide was to explain and convey that we will try to talk about blockchain from a different point of view. Okay, so the way what I'm talking about revolves around the concept of common knowledge. Okay, and I will argue that blockchains introduce a new form, a very interesting form of computation that we can call common knowledge computing. Okay, so first of all, what is common knowledge? Now, common knowledge is a special modality of knowledge in groups of individuals or entities, or in general agents. Okay, so we say that if there is a thing P, okay, that P is common knowledge in a set of agents if, first of all agents know P. What is P? P can be whatever. For instance, that now in Milan is, it's sunny, or that what the time is it, or God exists, and so on. And if all the agents in G know P, and moreover, if all the agents know that all the other agents know P, and then all the agents know that all the other agents know that all the other agents know P, and so on and so forth. Okay, so ad infinitum. If this is satisfied, I mean, these different levels of knowledge are satisfied, we say that P is common knowledge that P is common knowledge in G. Of course, this is a very strong kind of knowledge. For instance, if just all the agents know P, this is called mutual knowledge. It's something very different. So why is this concept interesting? Well, first of all, when was this concept introduced historically? Well, we have this first, we have the first use of the term in work by David Caleb Lewis in 1969, but he acknowledges that the same concept was explored sometime before by David Hume in the Treatise of Human Nature, and then we have the Oman formalized it in 1976. And why is this concept interesting? So how does it play? What play roles in our lives? First of all, many forms of social coordination require some form of common knowledge. Okay, for instance, I will see in a second effectiveness of traffic laws. Traffic laws can work if they are common knowledge among all the drivers. Okay, then we have many other examples. For instance, consider participation in a public protest. Okay, so you want to participate in a public protest, but you want to go there if you are sure that others will go to the same event, and other will go there if you will go there. So you have to know that other will go, but others will go if they know that they know that you will go, and so on. And this is why many oppressive governments try to impair the emergence of common knowledge. Okay, so now let's think a little bit more about traffic laws. Okay, if we are approaching a traffic crossing, for instance, and we know what to do because traffic laws tell us, for traffic laws to be effective, for me, if I'm driver A, for instance, to know what to do and to act accordingly to the traffic laws, of course I have to know traffic laws. I have to know that also the other driver know what laws are, but that is not sufficient. I also have to know that they know that I know, okay? And they have to know that I know that they know, and so on and so forth, okay? If it was just that I know the traffic laws, but I don't know if others know, of course, that wouldn't work. And so in this case, we need common knowledge for this kind of coordination to happen. Then we have some other fancy examples. For instance, in we have fairy tales. We'll know the story of the emperor's new clothes. In the emperors of new clothes, we have this emperor and then these two self-styled tailors, weavers that convince the emperor that they have a very special fabric, and this fabric is visible only to clever people, and it's invisible to fools. Okay, so they convince the emperor of this thing, and they tell everyone that comes visiting the emperor that this is a special fabric with these properties. And of course, everybody singularly sees that there's no dress at all, but they're stuck into their personal knowledge, and so they don't dare speaking up and saying anything. And you know how the story goes, that the emperor sets up a parade, and so everybody, all the people look at the emperor, sees him naked, but then they're speaking up until a child cries out that in fact the emperor is naked. At that point, that knowledge, that was mutual knowledge, everybody already knew that the emperor was naked, becomes common knowledge. So everybody knows that everybody else knows, and then Well, in the fairy tale, the emperor keeps on just going on with his parade, but something might have happened, and people could have, decide to tell everybody that this was the case. Okay, so this is a condition for tells the difference from mutual knowledge and the common knowledge and its power. Now, if we consider game theory, we find that common knowledge is in many situations for many coordination strategies among agents. Common knowledge is in fact a necessary condition. Okay, so for instance, if you think of coordination strategies in the Prisoner's Dilemma or in other games, you need common knowledge of agents. Each agent has to know what are the strategy of other agents, and he has to know that the others know his strategy, and so on. And there are also some remarkable results that stem from this concept. For instance, one of the most interesting and famous is Ullmann's theorem. And Ullmann's theorem says that if there are two rational agents, and these two agents are rational, are two honest truth seekers, and they are arguing about something. Okay, so they're trying to reach the truth about some particular issue. Okay, if they have common knowledge of each other's priors and they have enough time to communicate, then in the end they must come to an agreement. So it's impossible they don't come to an agreement. This is something very, very strong that tells what is the power of this kind of knowledge. So common knowledge is a kind of knowledge that and can be very powerful and necessary for many kinds of coordinations. Now, what happens in our digital world? That is one of the things that we are interested in. We all know that the digitization is a very powerful. It's a name. And a powerful tide, and it brings a lot of advantages. So, for instance, we know that storing information is much cheaper than analog versions of information, and it scales much better. And the same holds for transmission. And we know that digital information, of course, can be automated in many different ways. Okay, so there are a lot of advantages in, let me say, classical digitization. But there's one thing that digitization is not particularly good at, and it's creating trust. Okay, so what do I mean with this? Usually when I try to get this point through, I use an example that I propose to you. Now imagine that I want to propose an application that can save people's money from spending everything they have during the Black Friday. Okay, so imagine that now I propose this application through a fancy website, and it works like this. I ask people, please, you send me all your money, and I will send them back to you after the Black Friday is over. Okay, so you can find his bank account address. Please send me your money, and I will make sure that you got it back after the Black Friday has passed. Now, how can I credibly offer such a service? Can I credibly offer such a service? And another question is, okay, let me say that, okay, I offer this service, and the behavior of the application is digitized, and it's automated through code. So this is it's not me that will handle your money, but a computer program, and I publish the code, and look at this. This is the code on GitHub, and so on. Now, is this a guarantee? Does automatizing the process offer some guarantees to users? Now, the answer is, unfortunately, that with classical computation, and we call it classical computation, this is not the case. Okay, the problem with classical computation is opaque. Okay, so I can run some code on, of course, I'm not explaining that to you, but I'm telling you that this is how I explain things to non-technical audiences. So if I have a computer program, I control a computer and I run a program on it, it is very, very difficult for me, even though I am honest, and so I would have all the reasons to tell it to people. It is very difficult to convince someone else that a certain processing system is indeed running a certain particular code. Okay, and this is where blockchain can be introduced to change the game. Okay, we all know what is a blockchain. One of the ways in which we can explain what it is and what kind of disruption it introduces is that it is a special computer, a special system in which the code that is running can be demonstrated to anyone. Okay, so anyone can be sure that that is indeed the code that is actually running and that it won't be changed and so on. Now, this would solve our problem with the application. So with such a system, I would be able to, convince users that their money will be handled according to a specific process. Okay, so they will be held and then given back after Black Friday. But what it is interesting, according to our analysis and perspectives, is that we have much more than that. Okay, so blockchains offer not just the possibility for anyone to verify that the code that is running is indeed the one that is published, but it offers this possibility in a common knowledge fashion. So within a blockchain, everybody knows that that is the code running, and not only that, they also know that everybody else knows that that is the code running, and they knows that everybody else knows that, and so on and so forth. We will see in a second why this is the case. Okay, and if we try to break down and analyze precisely what are the things that are common knowledge in and functioning in running of a blockchain, we have at least these three facts that are common knowledge. First of all, what code is running? So we have that the code that is running is known by everyone, and everybody knows that everyone knows that is the code, and so on. And everybody knows, it is common knowledge that the access to the network is not censorable, so it cannot be censored. And this is also common knowledge. And then we also know that, and another thing that is common knowledge is that the execution of the program cannot be interrupted. Okay, so cannot be stopped. And these three things are known by everyone, and everybody knows that everyone knows that is the case. Okay, and if we think about it, how does common knowledge emerge in society for societal coordination? Well, there are many ways, but one very interesting way is through rituals. Okay, so Michael Soo-Kyung Choi wrote this very interesting book, is Rational Ritual, Cultural Coordination and Common Knowledge, in which he argues that one of the main functions of public rituals is to make some things common knowledge. For instance, to think of a wedding, okay, you want to make the fact that the two people united in a family to be common knowledge. So everybody has to know that everybody else knows that. Or imagine political allies, of course, or religious functions. In religious functions, you also have the disposition of the participants to a given ceremony is designed to maximize the emergence of common knowledge. I see that everybody is looking at the priest and they hear what he says and so on. Or I think, for instance, for inaugurations. Now, one interesting thing with provocation, one idea and one provocation is how does common knowledge emerge in blockchains? Isn't there any ritual dimensions in blockchains? And we know that agreement on blockchains happens, agreement, of course, on the functioning of the system, on the evolution of the system state is reached through consensus protocols. Now, my question is, isn't there a ritual dimension in how consensus protocols work? Okay, so this is interesting because we might ask, should there be more rituality in consensus protocols? Should that be taken into account to when we design and think of evolution of consensus protocols? And to understand how this is not something that should be taken for granted, we can think of an example, the example of Zcash. You all know Zcash is a blockchain that allows to perform private transaction between users. And as you all know, Zcash relies on Zeki's NARCs to work. And Zeki's NARCs is a technology that requires a setup procedure. And in this setup procedure, you have to provide the system some randomness. This randomness is used to generate some public parameters. These public parameters are the one that will be used to generate and verify proofs. Now, this is a problem that this randomness has to be used, created, and then deleted, forgotten. If this randomness is kept, if anybody can remember or know this randomness, that it will be able to produce, to forge false proofs. Okay, so it's very important that here it's very important that the fact that this randomness gets forgotten, gets destroyed, and then nobody knows it after the setup of the system is common knowledge. Okay, and then what happened, and that was the aim of the Zcash parameter generation ceremony. Okay, it was a ceremony that lasted some time in which people could participate, and then there was this multi-party computation protocol that guaranteed that if at least one participant was honest in deleting the randomness, then the randomness would have been lost and not recoverable by anyone. Okay, so in this case, this was a special kind of common knowledge. They had to let anyone, to make everyone sure that nobody knew something, and that everybody knew that everybody knew that everybody knew that nobody knew something. Okay, so this was a very special kind of common knowledge, and it was reached through something that they admittedly called a ceremony. Now, one of the things that we are trying to do is to considering different kinds of application or applicative areas, and to point out what is the role that is played by common knowledge in this area. Okay, for some, it's almost straightforward. For instance, think of centralized finance. Okay. Or games. Okay, you participate in a game. The rules of the game has to be common knowledge. The same goes for insurance and so on. In other sectors, it is less clear how this concept plays out. Because we think that if it is possible to highlight and to factor out the role played by common knowledge in these areas, then it becomes very easier and more effective and more possible to communicate to non-technical audience, which are the benefits and then disruption introduced by common knowledge. So this is something that I would like to ask you as well. So do you think that this concept can play a role in these applicative scenarios? So that's it. This is one point of view, one perspective that we're working on, and I'm really, curious. What do you think about it? So let me just. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any comments, I would be very, very happy to know them and to talk with you about this. Okay, so I'm reading the chat. Okay, or slide, sir. I like this example. Thank you, Justin. What if purely rational agents don't exist? Yeah, that could very well be the case. It's very the very saying the very definition of rational agents is something that is under scrutiny, and I don't know if there's an agreed upon definition. Anyway, I think that this works also in the case of limited rationality. And the DAO, that destroys autonomous authentication, creates consensus rituals. That may be very well be the case. This is a very interesting point of view, and so maybe we could, think about that and see which ways in DAOs, what is the role played in a decentralized autonomous organization by rituals. But I agree with you. I'm thinking of MakerDAO, for instance. The polls on protocol evolutions and so on. Okay, yes, DAO. And do you think that LOD architectures and principles could support this process, taking into account that knowledge is not only data, but the relationship between them and the context in which they're located? Absolutely, yes. Justin, do you have experience with working with cooperatives? What do you mean with cooperatives, Justin? Yes, cooperatives, yes, absolutely. Yes, I have some experience, and yes, I really think that this could be really effective for this kind of audiences, and we will try to use this framing to explain to them. This is something we would like to do. Yes, it's true. There's a big co-op sector in Italy. So thank you very much. These are very interesting questions. Is it the case for DAOs that rely on liquid coin votes has some incentives to prevent common knowledge in order to extract value? Well, maybe yes. Yes, I think that could be the case. Okay, so there are, Chen, I think that common knowledge brings in some information symmetry, of course. So wherever you can profit from information asymmetry, but there's almost say that if there's common knowledge of priors and communication and rational, and honest truth seeking, then you end up agreeing on the same priors. Okay, so maybe you could have some preventing common knowledge could have a role in preserving information asymmetry, which is, of course, as you know much better than me, is a precondition for extracting value in finance. So this is a very good question, Chen. I think that you might help me in figuring this out. You're much more competent than me. Yes, of course, I will share the slides with you. With great pleasure. Okay, so I guess my time's up. So thank you